and you are welcome to the Shabbat of this morning. We thank the Lord our God, the creator of the ends of the multiverse, for his love, for his grace, for his righteousness, and for the opportunity he has given to us to see this wonderful and this great day. The sun is shining, it's peaceful, and we bless the Lord for the country, the land in which we live. The parasha of this morning is not a Parshas Kedoshim, and I subtitle it as Holiness to the Lord. Holiness to the Lord. Parashah Kedoshim, holiness to the Lord. The Lord our God is holy, and he commanded us to be holy. So the question now is, what is the meaning of the word to be holy? Because we have a lot of misunderstanding in different religions about the word holy. And in the Hebrew word Kadosh or Kedoshim is telling us holiness is talking about separation. The word holy means to be separated, to be different from among the people who the Lord God has created. Because God has called Israel out of the people to be what? To be different. Because of what? Because of the Torah. I'm going to hand over to you the blueprint of life. And this blueprint of life, which is the Torah, will make you different. Will separate you from among other people. And when the whole world will be seeing the way you act, the way you speak, the way you do things, they will say, oh, these people are what? Are different people. These people are not the same like us. Let us join them to do what? To serve the Lord their God. God is telling us this morning that we as children of God, we as an Israelite, we as Jews, we have to what? To be separate. We have to be separated in all areas of our life, in whatsoever we do, for us to be able to build, to serve the Lord our God. For the Lord our God is separated from all his creation. The creation, God is completely separated from his creation. It's not that he is in the creation. His realm is absolutely different from the realm of all his creation, both spiritual and physical. He controls all things. His energy, his strength flow from his realm to all the realms of his creation. With the first verse of this parasha, you shall be holy, for I, the Lord your God, am holy. We enter the holiness code, the priestly guide to the right of action. Its most famous verse is probably Leviticus chapter 19, verse 18c, which states, love your neighbor as yourself. So the question now is, who is your neighbor? Who is my neighbor? Your neighbor might be another person that you don't know. Your neighbor might be from another country. Your neighbor might not even be from your own faith. But God is saying, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Because many people think that my neighbor is my sister, my brother, those people, right? My relation, my friends, those people that I feel ease with, you know. But those ones that I don't feel ease with, they are not my neighbor. That is what the world wants us to understand now. But in the Torah, according to our tradition, your neighbor is in the right, the next person writes to you. That is your neighbor. For example, if your neighbor is is from another faith or is from another religion or is not from a country or a tongue that you speak, the Torah says you shall love him as yourself. Because the issue now is, if I can love a person that I don't even know, if I can love a man, a woman, a person that is not from my tribe, that is not from my blood, how much more a person that is my sister or my brother or the one that comes from my blood? If I can love the man that is not from my faith, how much more those that come from my faith? That is what the Torah is telling us. That you shall love him, you shall defend him, and you shall keep him. Or her, it doesn't matter. So we have to be different. So by so doing, that man, that woman, that boy, that girl, that person that is not from your tribe or your faith or from your country, we see the difference in you. We see the word of God in you. We see the Torah in you. Because the Torah is not just by speech. No, the Torah is action. It's what you do. It's what I do. right? And then we see our action. They will say, oh, wow, this man, this woman is different. And they can then be motivated. They say, what is your faith? So, I believe in God. My faith is in God. And then they can join you to serve the Lord, your God. Holiness is not just a pious platitude or an empty hope, which means it is not just a pious statement. It's not a kind of a righteous statement. It's not a kind of a righteous remark. No. But it is not an empty hope. It is real. It is what? It is real. Holiness is real. Rather, the body of the law that tells us in every concrete time exactly how we are to achieve holiness. The same is true for love your neighbor. This Torah that we read this morning is giving us this concrete action. As I said, the Torah is not an empty word. It's a concrete action that we have to do. Many people say, oh, I follow the Torah. You are the student of Moshe. Fine, fantastic, and that is good that you are the student of Moshe. But do you do exactly what the Torah said? Because in the world that we live now, in the 21st century, we can see, as I explained before, the world is turned upside down. The truth is upside down. There are a lot of synagogues. I have heard a lot of rabbis that are even afraid to speak the truth. Because when they say the truth, the word, the new generation, they will bounce on them. Right? The new generation, they will bounce on them. They will say, you are what? You are a bigot. They will call them all kinds of negative names that you don't understand. The Torah gives us a fact truth in the Parshas Kedoshim, what is holy, what you can do and what you cannot do, how for you to separate yourself from the world. Yes, we are in the world, but we are not of the world. We live on this planet, right? But we are not of this planet. We have to seek the peace of the planet. We have to make sure that righteousness, justice reign in the land. We love our country, Canada, that we live. This is our home. This is our land. We have to defend it with the last blood that we have in our vein. That's what I'm saying. We have to be patriotic. But I'm not talking about patriotism of the negative side, of the evil side, but of the positive side. So the Torah that Moshe gave to us is a Torah of truth. Not the one, because man, culture, and tradition changes. But the Torah is eternal. I will stand firm and speak of the righteousness of the Lord all day long. For the Lord is good. His mercy forever endures. It appears as a general statement of ethical principle, but our tradition insists on a concrete application. As I said, that this Parashat Kedoshim, Leviticus, Vayikra, chapter 19, and so on, it gives us that it's a kind of a ripple effect. The 10 Commandments is a summary of all the laws. But God, our Creator, is now expanding on those laws to give us the understanding, so that we will know and understand what actually He wants from us. How we can live peaceably, how we can live amicably with our neighbor. Because once you live amicably with your neighbor, then you can live amicably with your community. You can live amicably with your state. You can live amicably in your country. You remember that a country is not just the multitude of the people. No, a country starts from a family, from the single unit, from that family. And the family will make a village. A village will make a town. A town will make a city. A city will make a state. A state will make a country. So, but if we does not recognize from the single unit, from the family, then if we did not raise good children, if we don't raise good family, if we don't raise a patriotic children, how can they grow up to be a good town or a village or a good state or a good country? No, it can never be. You can't just say, voila, one just like a magic. Everything is good. No, we have to inculcate those values in our children. Good value, the values of the Torah, loving your neighbor as yourself. We can see this clearly in two passages from Maimonides in the Mishnah Torah. The first comes from the Sefer Hamada, Hilchot Dayot, 6:3. It states, "It is incumbent on everyone to love each individual Israelite as himself, as it is said, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Therefore, a person ought to speak in praise of his neighbor and be careful of his neighbor's properties as he is careful of his own property, and solicitous about his own honor," that means concerning his own honor. "Whoever glorifies himself by humiliating another person will have no portion in the world to come." Remember that. He says, whoever glorifies himself by humiliating another person will have no portion in the world to come. Love your neighbor as yourself. Your neighbor, for example, your neighbor is a Muslim man, right? Your neighbor is from Iran. He's a Muslim person. He's a Shiite, right? From Iran. And you are a Jew, right? That believe in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And he is your neighbor. And you look at him, with this kind of pride. I'm a Jew, and he, is a what? Is a garbage. You will have no portion in the world to come. Remember that man who is an Iranian or a Shiite or whatever religion that believes in is made in the image of God. And you shall respect, you shall fear the Lord thy God. It's made in the image of God. Why must you humiliate him in order to raise yourself up, your ego? Right? You shall not do that. That's what the Torah is telling us. You shall fear the Lord your God. You shall do exactly what the Torah is commanded. You shall love him. And thereby, by loving him, he will see the different side of Judaism. He will see that, these Jews are different. There are different between me and them. That actually, they do exactly and they follow exactly what is written in the Torah. The Torah of truth. So we, as a Jew, we as an Israelite have to live to the standard that God has given us, and our standard is not like this. Our standard is high. Remember that we are separated from the people, and we have to show true love, not just the love of mouth, but the love of action. The key word here is hence or therefore. There has to be a word, there has to be a therefore. Love as an internal feeling or emotion, even if we assume that it can be commanded, is not enough. As Rabbi Lewis Yaakov writes, he says, the golden rule is not, in fact, an appeal to do emotion, but a call to action. Love cannot just be an emotion. Yes, it is commanded in the Torah that you shall be happy in the days of what? Of your festivities. God commanded that. You shall be happy. It is command. So, but how can we command emotion? That's what the problem is. But God commanded us to be happy in the days of our festivities. You cannot come to the temple of God with a sad eye, weak. No. You shall come joyful, joyous. That it is a command. So how do you do that now? That is the issue. How can I live to be joyous? But God is saying that it's so for you to be able to do that. It is not just it cannot make it as an emotion, but as an action. It has to be concrete. People have to see it. Loving your neighbor as yourself is not only by mouth, but by what you do, by what I do. By what the action that we perform before that neighbor, before that person. Then through that person might see that yes, actually we are not the same like them. The first level of love your neighbor is much like the Hippocratic oath. First, do not harm. It draws a protective fence around a person's core needs of property and honor, meaning both his reputation and his self-esteem. It follows Hillel elaboration of the mitzvah, which states that which is hateful to you, do not do to another. That is it. That is, he said, Hillel said that the all Torah can be what? Can be compounded in just a simple statement. Love the Lord your God, right? And do not do that which you cannot accept to another person. The rest is commentary. That is it. That is everything about. It's not hard, for God's sake. We men makes it hard. The Torah is not hard. If it is hard, I keep on telling my people. I keep on telling you people and those who are watching. I keep on saying that if the Torah is hard, God will not give it to us in the first place. For God, our Lord, is not wicked. He will never give things that we cannot do for us. But God knows that we can perform it, we can do it. That is why He has given us the Torah, so that we can be different. What you cannot accept, why giving it to another person? Or why doing it to another person? If you know that you cannot accept all kinds of nonsense, why do you want to give nonsense to your brother, or to your sister, or to your neighbor? Why do you want to do that? It doesn't make sense. If I love God with all my heart, right, and I actually love my neighbor, and I perform it not by mouth, but concrete action, then my neighbor will say, wow, this man is different. This man, I can stand by this man because I know that I am what? I am safe. Because I will do what? I will protect him. I will guide him. In my culture, back in Ethiopia, I keep on telling us every time, once a word, it is an Eastern culture. Right? Once a person comes into your house, once a stranger, you invite your friends, right? Or whoever that you invite inside your house, under your own roof. If nothing must happen to that person, nothing, you have to defend that person with your own life, because it is an honor. Because that person is under your protection. Once that person put his legs inside your roof, under your roof, it's under your own protection. You shall defend him with your life. It's an honor. If anything happens to that person, they will say, oh, that the owner of the house is not part to that. Because there might be any bad thing, right? But you defend that stranger. You defend that person, that your friend, or that your colleagues that you invite into your house with your own life. Because you are not part to anything negative against him. You show the eternal love. You show that you will self-sacrifice yourself for your brother, for your friends, for your neighbor. That is what God is saying. It's not hard for us to understand. When you guide and you protect the property of your neighbor, when you guide and protect the property of the person that is close to you, then you can now be able to say, yes, I am following, I am doing exactly what the Torah said. Remember, as I said, when God gave us the commandments, right, when we are about to leave Mizraim, and he said, every one of us shall kill the Pesach offering. God did not tell us, go and invite your friend or your neighbor that is in London to come and eat the Pesach with you. No. God said, if the house is too small, the house shall combine with its neighbor. Not the neighbor in 2 kilometers away. No, right the next door. That's what God is saying. Why is that? Because if we combine with our neighbor right next door, if you have a quarrel, a fight with your neighbor, you have to solve it before the person is killed. You cannot be, if you are not united now, if you are not one now, how can you be one in the wilderness? How can you be one in the land of Israel, in the promised land? You have to remove every grudges. You have to remove every hatred. You have to remove every evil or bad thought that you have about your neighbor. That's what God is telling us. It's not hard. The Torah is not hard, my people. It's simple. If we can understand it the way Moshe Rabbeinu gave it to us from the mount. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. If you cannot accept negativity, why giving negativity? It's simple. You will kill the Pesach offering together with your neighbor. Not the one that is not your friend that is 10 kilometers away. No, but with that neighbor that is close to your house. You shall solve every problem, and you shall kill the Pesach, and all of us shall leave the land. That is what he's saying. However, this is not enough. In the law of mourning, 14:1, Maimonides codify act of hesed. The codify act of hesed. The following positive commandments were ordained by the rabbis: visiting the sick, comforting the mourner, joining a funeral procession, dowering a bride, a bearer, going before the coffin, causing the bride and groom to rejoice, providing them with all their needs for the weddings. This constitutes deeds of loving kindness performed in person and for which no fixed measure is prescribed. Although all these commands are only a rabbinic authority, they are implied in the precept, "You shall love your neighbor as yourself." What I'm saying that here is in the law of money, 14:1, as codified by Maimonides. Maimonides give us all these simple acts, that a kind of act of what? Of loving your neighbor as yourself. How can we do? What can I do? You see somebody is sick, you go visit them, right? In the hospital or in their house. Somebody needs a help, you help. Somebody comes to your house, no. You see, he said, "Amigo, please, do you have a bread?" You have a bread. Maybe the bread is small like this. Say, man, I don't think this bread can be enough for me. You tell the man, "Go pray to God. God will give you bread." What type of a student of Torah are you? You are not a student of the Torah. The Torah said that you shall pick that bread, divide it in half, give him half. Let him eat. Because you, at that time, are his angel of provision. Right? At that particular time, you are the angel that God has sent to him to provide for him. He's hungry. Break the bread, give him half, you keep half. And God will bless you more. That is it. Okay, somebody need a cloth. He come, he said, "Please, Lilia, I need a cloth." Lilia have 4 clothes. He said, "These are the good clothes." No. Why didn't you walk? Why are you not walking? You should go and walk. Give 1 cloth. Give. God will bless you more. That's what I'm saying. Don't judge. Do not judge. Don't be the judge. Don't judge. Let the Holy One, blessed be He, let Him judge. Don't judge. Because most of us are understood this now in my life. Most of us, it is easy to judge. And this is because of ego. I'm serious. It is easy to judge. But can you be, as Amigo always said, can you be in their shoe? It's very important. Can you be in someone's shoe? Consider what that person might be passing through. Yes, I know there's a lot of people who cause their own problem with their own hand. But a man can fall 7 times and a man can rise 7 times. Just help. That is it. Do not judge. Let judgment be left to God. Imagine someone reading these commandments for the first time. This person wants to follow it, to do it, and so he meditates on it all day long, and over again and again and again and again. And therefore, how can I act on this mitzvah in my daily life? He asks himself. The result will probably look much like Maimonides' codification. Why? Because these commandments are all done with the personal effort and presence, time and care. You can't delegate hesed. No. You can't pay someone else to do it for you. It is not possible. The love demanded is the commitment of the self and the specific address the specific address fundamental human needs that we all have. Whatever are placed on the ladder of wealth and age is love your neighbor as yourself, meaning self-sacrifice. That is it. Loving your neighbor as yourself, meaning self-sacrifice. You cannot delegate that. You cannot say, "You know what, amigo, I'll give you money. Go and help me to do righteousness." No, you have to do it yourself. You cannot delegate it. You cannot pay for it like as if you are paying a laborer for their work. No, you have to do it yourself. Even though if you are the greatest billionaire in the world, you cannot pay for someone to do righteousness for you or on your behalf. No, it is your own action that you have to perform, to do. You cannot say, oh, I don't have time. You have to self-sacrifice yourself and your time to do what is good. I will say, taking part in the common life means dwelling in a web of relationship. The many thread tugging at you while also holding you upright. What does that mean? To do what? To be a part of a community. To be a part of a community means that there's a lot of lines, rope, right? That is tagging at you. Tagging meaning is holding you. You see, it's tagging at you. A lot of rope. And at the same time, that rope that is pulling you, that rope is making you to stand upright. You see, it's a two-edged sword. Many people, they don't want to be a part of a community, right? Many people, they want to be a loner. But if something happens, how can you stand? Because you're alone. And I'll read. What a powerful image. Western popular culture glorify the loner. Someone who is alone. They glorify that. Hey, I need freedom. I want freedom. I want to be alone. I need my total freedom. Let's see. Who has no thread tagging at him? Who fear being tied down? Because these people, they have this idea that if I'm in a community, they tie me down. I don't have the freedom. I don't have this and that. The rope is tagging at me every time. But remember that the same rope is the one that is keeping you upright. Making you not to fall. Alright? But he also has nothing to hold him up when the storm of life, when the wind of life blow at him. If you are alone, how can you live? If you are not, if you don't have a community, if you don't have friends, if you don't have family who is there for you, you cannot be alone. You need all those rope. Those rope, they hold you tight. They hold you tight. Those relationships. When I talk about the ropes, I mean about relationship. Those relationships, they hold you tight. What do we fear most is a question. What do we fear most? To be sick? To be bereaved? Or to die? But there is something worse more than that. There is something worse than these inevitable losses. To be sick without a visitor. To mourn in solitude. To die alone. To love your neighbor means to assure with all your strength, skill, and passion that you will be present at their moment of joy and loss. And it means that you will worry over the details of enactment and shun the perfectionary. That means lack of interest. That is what it means to love your neighbor as yourself. Because that rope that you think that is pulling you down, that is the same rope is one that is holding you up. That relationship. When you are alone, it's not good to be alone. The Torah said, it is not good for man to be alone. I will make him an helpmate. God is not stupid. Elohim is not stupid for making man to be in society. We are a social animal. Man is a social being. He needs relationship. He needs love. He needs caring. He needs a lot of things to make him a whole being. And if we are not, if we shun those things, you see, because we live in Canada, because I live in the United States, because I live in the Western culture, most of this culture is very strange, where they shun friends, family. I need my freedom. I don't want to be tied down by anything. But that is not what God is saying. God wants us to be in a communion, in a community. Let me tell you a story. I'm going to tell us a story, finally, before we close. There was a woman who recently moved from Los Angeles, right, to Bloomington. This woman said that she will not be able to stay here any longer. She's not able to stay in Bloomington anymore because she was already beginning to recognize people in the grocery store, in the sidewalk, in the library. Being surrendered by familiar faces made her nervous. After years in the city where she could range about anonymously, where she can range anywhere that she wants. That woman understood something that many people are unwilling to acknowledge. If you want community, and we all say we do, you have to give up your radical freedom. If you say that you want a community, if I say that I need a community, then I have to give up my radical freedom. With a community, there is no absolute freedom. No, that is a message of the enemy. That is a message of the evil one that is trying to tell you have absolute freedom. No, there is nothing like that in the Torah. God gave man limited freedom, not an absolute freedom. Our freedom is a limited one. As far, he said, my rights stop where the right of another person starts. That is it. It is not an absolute freedom. So Torah is giving us this understanding individually and collectively that we need one another. See, moving from a city, moving from a big, huge city like to Toronto, like Montreal, into a small town, right? Where a community is built. Everybody knows everybody, right? In a town, in a village, everybody knows everybody. And so that is why it is very hard in a village for someone to be a thief. You cannot steal because everybody knows everybody. But in the city, you can do whatever you want to do. Nobody knows you, nobody cares. In the town, I always say, I remember the first time I came to Canada, back in Ontario, in Toronto. My neighbor, I'll come out and say, hey, hello, good morning. They look at me like this, what is wrong with this guy? To them it is strange. Why are you greeting me? I am alone. I am by myself. I don't need your greeting. I have everything that I need. But that is not life. In my culture, in my tradition, everybody greets them, even though you don't know him. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. How are you coming from? How are you doing? Is the market okay? Is everything good? That is life. You lift up people's spirit. But in the Western culture that we have now, it's no longer like that. In the 21st century, everybody wants to be alone. Everybody wants to be a loner, which is not what God is talking about. So, therefore, as I will say, most Westerners have understood freedom for the most part negatively rather than positively. As release from a constraint rather than as the condition for making a decent life in common. It seems to me that the entire trajectory of the biblical narrative from Egypt to Sinai, and then from Sinai through the rough breaking in period of the wilderness wandering, and beyond into the period of judges, kingdoms, and prophets. It's exactly about the struggle to make a decent life in common. It's all about the struggle for us to be united, to be one, as a covenant people, bound to the law of holiness and hesed, to the law of righteousness, of goodness. That is the freedom that God gave us at the Red Sea. That is the freedom that God gave us on Mount Sinai, and that is the freedom that God is telling us this morning, to love your neighbor as yourself, and for us to build a community based on love. A community that will depend on one another. A tree does not make a forest. Trees make forests. I cannot be alone. How can you be alone? How can you rejoice you being alone? What type of mind is that? We are all depending on one another. We are a society. We are a community. We need to build a decent life together. We are a social beings, and we have to socialize among ourselves, not only on Shabbat, but every other day. Communicate. All these things, God taking us from where? from Egypt all to the promised land. It's all about creating a bond, oneness, that all of you will be what? Will be one. We will remove from our side all those negativities, the hatred, the envy, the stupidity. We will remove them, and we all shall be one. Because when I love my neighbor that is next to me, when I love that man, that woman, that person that is next to me, even though it's not from my race, even though it's not from my tribe, even though it's not from my faith, I perform the Torah. That's what God is saying. So please, I want us to work on this very well, individually and collectively. Parshas Kedoshim, holiness unto the Lord. Shabbat shalom.